Hola y bienvenidos a la Daily Hustle. Soy Enrique Byrnes y presidente de esa mejor cerveza. No abate por No Filter Network. Miguelito San Dieguito not with us today. Will the Thrill not with us today. But our guy Pete's with us today, already chiming in on the chat with some of the greatest baseball names of all time, by the way. Johnny Dickshot, Rusty Kuntz, and Pete Lecoq, just a couple of them. So, Pete, we appreciate you joining John Davis. A very pleasant good morning to you. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, anywhere else, you want to watch this live, come to nofilter.net. Regardless, we come on here each and every single morning and we salute not only our boys Miguelito San Dieguito and Will the Thrill, but each and every one of you. Yes, 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 yes. Woo! Remember this, folks. When we are juiceful, we are useful. And when we are juiceless, we are fucking useless. A very pleasant good morning to you on the 25th day of September 2024. The Daily Hustle went out earlier this morning, and yes, we talking about practice. Here it is. Buenos dias. Today is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. Last night, the Padres turned a walk-off triple play against the Dodgers to clinch a postseason berth and pull within 2 games of the NL West lead. Meanwhile, in Arizona, the Giants destroy the D-backs, bringing 3 teams fighting for a wild card spot, the D-backs, Mets, and Braves, within a half game of each other. Hot damn, it's a good time to be a baseball fan. Well, unless you're an A's fan, then it just kind of sucks. Daily Hustle quote of the day. After he retired, John Wooden was asked what he missed most about coaching. His one-word response, practice. Daily Hustle translation. Coach Wooden won an unthinkable 10 national championships and reached the pinnacle of the coaching world because of the above answer. He was a coach that loved the process and the grind. I'm sure the games were great, and there was plenty of coaching that took place, but Coach Wooden's biggest impact happened in the B.O. Barn, nicknamed for the lingering smell of the old rundown men's gym. It was there where he could obsess over the details with the ability to provide instant feedback and make any immediate and necessary adjustments while keeping the squad humble and hungry. Coach Wooden said several times he always believed the game was for the players and practice was for the coaches to diligently prepare the players to autonomously play once they got into the games. In essence, he embodied the let them play philosophy well before let them play ever existed. Bottom line, practice doesn't make perfect, but it does allow us to continue the eternal and relentless pursuit of perfection, which at the end of the day is the chase we will all miss the most. EB. Yeah, it's everything. And I think back even to what I missed most about my career, and it's not necessarily the games. It's the preparation and the off-season training, the time spent in the batting cage, breaking down pitchers and watching videos and the cage time, like all of it, man. Like that is everything. So even as a player, now, of course, the game was always the reward, right? And when we were doing it right, in any sport that I ever played, when you got into the competition, you played free and fearlessly. But it's like a test that you know that you studied for. And so it makes total sense that John Wooden, his game in a lot of senses and as a coach was the actual practice. That's what he missed most. So anyhow, Major League Baseball, what a fucking night last night. The Padres, chasing the Dodgers, down 3 games, going into LA, had a 4-2 lead in the 9th inning. I'm downstairs playing ping pong with Biscuit, and then all of a sudden I hear my wife, "Ah! No way! No way!" And I'm like, "What?" And she comes racing down the stairs. She goes, "The Padres just turned a triple play." I'm like, "Ah, cool." But I didn't realize the magnitude of what had gone on. I didn't realize that Ohtani was on deck, that there were already 2 guys on. So immediately we went to it. We watched it. That's October baseball, even though it's September. I mean, what an exciting time. And then Dodgers broadcaster Joe Davis, extremely talented, right? I mean, one of the most talented broadcasters, I mean, ever is a very bold word. But in a lot of ways, it's the next Joe Buck. The guy's crossing over. He's doing multiple sports. He took over for Vince Scully. I mean, how could you ever fucking take over for Vince Scully? Like, no, you can't, right? You can't replace him. But this kid's good, legit. And so he's on there, and he has this beautiful line about Ohtani. And it's not a matter of if he comes up. It's just a matter of what's going to be on his plate. So how many runs is he going to be able to drive in? And then, boom, 2 pitches later, the 5-4-3 triple play, ball game over. The Pods clinch their postseason berth. I'd love to see the stats on if that's ever happened before. The fact that the Padres clinched a postseason berth on a triple play, I can't believe it has. Now, there's some other cool Padres notes and information. As a matter of fact, Kowalski sent me one this morning. And it's funny because Kowalski's not always following everything. But when he gets into it, he gets into it. And so he really appreciated this last night. In MLB history, there have been over 700 triple plays turned. Okay, so it's not necessarily that rare of a feat. Over 300 no-hitters thrown, over 300 sets of back-to-back home runs. I would have thought there was more. Wait, hold on. How many backs is that? Yes, 3. Over 100 comeback wins from 8+ runs down. And only one team has done all 4 in the same season. And that, folks, is your 2024 San Diego Padres. They're good. They're legit. This is a team that's confident. They're hot. They're playing well. Mike Schilt, always loved this guy in St. Louis. And he went toe-to-toe with John Mozeliak, the general manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, and eventually ran him out of there. But he's a fucking baseball guy. And you can just tell, I don't know him from anything. Like, I always, knowing of him, I imagine our paths crossed it at one point. But this guy's a baseball lifer. So when you talk about Schilt and the attitude that he's brought to San Diego, it's been fantastic. Now, do I think Bob Melvin would be doing the same thing with the same cast of characters? Yeah, absolutely. This isn't anything where, he's reinventing the wheel. But at the same time, he's got these guys playing together. He's got them playing hard. They're getting production from all different areas, including starting pitching, including their bullpen, including, different places throughout the lineup. Cronenworth went deep last night. Jackson Merrill, obvious rookie of the year. Call him front runner. I don't know. Him and Skeens are going to have to battle that one out. Not to mention Jackson Churio of the Milwaukee Brewers. But at the same time, look, man, the Padres, who are now, we know, going to the postseason, if they could pull off this small miracle and somehow figure out a way to take down the National League West look the fuck out. It's a big deal when you could get that first round bye. I get it. There is something to be said for momentum and having a team come in, you win 2 out of 3, or you're the team that goes on the road to win 2 out of 3. That first series is 3 games. 3. Think about that. You play 162 games, 162, to be able to go ahead, and now this comes down to 2 out of 3. Ugh. You hate it. And you don't want the fate of your season to rest in 2 or 3 games. You much prefer playing the 5 games and then the 7 games and the 7 games in the NLCS, ALCS, and the World Series. Scoreboard yesterday. And then we'll go over the playoff scenarios. Detroit 2-1 over Tampa. So once again, it was Tarik Skubal that was lights out, 18-4, 2.39. This is your American League Cy Young Award winner. Fucking lights out yesterday again. Cleveland 6-1 over Cincinnati. The Cubs 10-4 over Philly. You have the Milwaukee Brewers 7-2 over Pittsburgh. And remember this, the Brewers are trying to chase either the Dodgers or the Padres for that. Well, I guess it would be the Phillies as well. Padres have 91 wins. The Dodgers have 93 wins. But it looks like the Brewers are going to be the third team, so they will have to play that wild card round. Kansas City 1-0 over Washington. They needed that win badly. They're now 83-74. Baltimore 5-3 over the Yankees. They clinched. It was just a matter of time, although this is a team that has certainly dealt with some struggles, and I think anybody would rightfully question how much they have left in October. Hopefully they have righted the ship there. That's a fun team to root for. 5-3 over the Yanks, like I mentioned. Boston 6-5 over Toronto. Well, good for Boston, at least staying above 500. They're 80-78. The Mets go down to Andy Morris's Braves. Wow. 5-1 is the Braves over the Mets. So now we have Atlanta, the Mets, and the Arizona Diamondbacks all within a half game of each other. Why? Because San Francisco beat the bricks off of the D-backs last night in Arizona, 11-0. The White Sox, they've lost 120 games this year. They get a win against the Angels last night, 3-2. Miami, 4-1 over Minnesota. Minnesota's fucking done. They're just done. It's sad, but I don't really care that much. But they were in prime position all season to be a playoff team, and everything has gone wrong for them recently. The Houston Astros win the American League West last night with a 4-3 victory over the Seattle Mariners. I mean, this was champagne shower season. Everybody around baseball, I think 3 different celebrations last night. St. Louis 7-3 over the Rockies. And then you had the Oakland A's in dramatic fashion, a win over the Texas Rangers 5-4 with what seemed like a good crowd in attendance at the Coliseum last night. Let's see exactly how many people. 30,402 at the Coliseum last night. And who was it with the walk-off? Jacob Wilson, our guy. The kid from, Southern California, Jack Wilson's son, went to Grand Canyon, was the first pick of the A's a couple years ago, just 22 years old. A huge knock for the A's late, and he sent the 30,000 home happy. It's last series in Oakland. Obviously a lot of mixed emotions there. I think part of it's sadness. Part of it is happy in the sense that I had the opportunity to play there. I'm grateful. Nostalgia. Like, there's that real kind of like hit home feeling. But to see that stadium and all of a sudden now, this is it. It's certainly bringing a wide range of emotions. Okay, so let's go over the standings here so everybody is clear. The Yankees, 92 and 65, they're fighting for the top spot with the Guardians, who are 91 and 67. The Astros will have that third division championship, or the West winners, but they will have to play the wild card round. The Orioles, who have now clinched, will be in the wild card. And then after that, you have the Tigers and the Royals, who sit pretty comfortably with 2-game leads over the Twins and then the Mariners, who both shit on themselves last night. So I would be shocked with 4 or 5 games to go if there's a shakeup amongst that. It looks like the AL is pretty well set. Now, the Dodgers and Phillies, again, most likely those will be the two teams that end up on top for those first 2 spots, which is what you want. And then you have the Brewers, who are 90 and 67. They are division winners, but will be playing in the wild card round. And then the 3 wild card teams as of now: the Padres, the Mets, and the Diamondbacks. But the Atlanta Braves, with a victory yesterday, 86 and 71, are just a half game out. Okay, so now let's look at the schedule, because here we are going forward. Wednesday, September 25th, which is today, you have Seattle at Houston, the Cubs at the Phillies, the Reds at the Guardians. You have Detroit, who is at home against Tampa again. Milwaukee's at Pittsburgh, Kansas City at Washington. The Orioles at the Yankees, Boston at Toronto, Mets at Atlanta. So this goes off at 4:20 p.m. Pacific time. You have the Angels at the White Sox. Then you have, I saw an article about the White Sox, and a bunch of fans went to the games with bags over their head, hoping to see them lose, hoping to see history. I guess the next loss is hit. They're going to hit another historic landmark of 121 losses or whatever, and they end up fucking winning. The Marlins are in Minnesota again. Minnesota, that's a must win just to stay alive. St. Louis at Colorado, San Francisco at Arizona. That game last night, it's kind of head scratching, and I didn't understand it. I thought it was the bet of the year. The Giants were plus 185, and I'm like, fucking what? I mean, maybe I was reading it wrong. I still think I might have read it wrong. With not Brandon Webb, with Logan Webb on the mound. Make no mistake about it. Understand this. I know teams, quote unquote, have to win. But there's big leaguers on the other side that are looking for their opportunity. That's their moment in the sun. As a matter of fact, for the Giants right now, them being able to derail the D-back season, don't take it personal. It puts them in the limelight. I remember a game that I had against, I believe it was the Padres. It was either the Padres or the Dodgers, because I remember Brett Nista hitting me up, and he was happy. I think it was the Padres. And I actually think Greg Maddux was on the mound. But I hit a home run. It was a fucking big one. And essentially, it sank the Padres' chances to get into the postseason. It helped the Dodgers. So I had Dodger fans everywhere thank you. I mean, this time of year, you're watching other teams' games as much as you're watching your own teams, right? When you're trying to get into the postseason. So you have San Francisco at Arizona. It's, what we got here? Black versus Gallen. Now, this one today would make a lot of sense for Arizona to be heavy favorites. 6:40 p.m. Pacific time, they're going off. And then the Texas Rangers at the Oakland A's. This is the, I don't know, what do you call it? The last game, the eve of the last game. So they do play one more game tomorrow, which will be a day game at the Coliseum. But I know Johnny Gomes Coach Ferbs, there's a whole crew going out to Oakland tonight. It'd almost be, it'd be worth it, but certainly worth it. And I highly recommend people do try to get out there. If you grew up an A's fan, if that place means anything to you, for somebody who didn't want to go back and then was sort of forced to go back, I don't want to say forced, that's not the right word. I'm not fucking forced to do anything. But for somebody who made the decision to go ahead and do it, it was definitely worth my time. All right, so then you have San Diego against Los Angeles. And for the Padres to have any chance, they need to win this fucking game. So if you think about it, going forward here, they're in LA tonight, and then they're in LA once again tomorrow on Thursday. The same thing with Atlanta and the New York Mets. So they control their own destiny. But if you're the Dodgers, all you got to do is win one. That's it, right? You win one, you should be sitting pretty. Now, there's been some talk because this will be really interesting. What happens when you have the hurricane that is about to rip up the eastern seaboard? So you have some of these games, if not a lot of them, that are going to be affected by Helene, this bitch that is making her way north currently right now and expected to make landfall on Thursday. So you have the Mets are supposed to be in Atlanta on Thursday. Well, we'll see, because that's going to be difficult for them to get it in. And they know it's coming. Now, a lot of people have mentioned stuff like MLB fucked this up. Look, I think if you're MLB, you can't 100% try to be the forecaster of what's happening, but they are going to have to get this game in. Now, it could be at a neutral site game. It could be delayed. They do have Monday, which is reserved for whatever tie-breaking scenarios they might have, so it could get pushed to that. I don't know how big of an impact the hurricane is going to leave, and then also how many other places it's going to hit. But the Thursday games, you have New York, Washington. I mean, really, it's just going to be Atlanta in the South. But you also have San Diego and LA going against each other. And then the final series of the year that starts on Friday, Los Angeles is going to be in Colorado. As far as San Diego, they're going to be in Arizona. Those are going to be fucking gigantic games in the NL West. So a lot still to be determined. And the A's, in case you're curious, will finish in Seattle, and the Giants will be at home against St. Louis. Okay. Hopefully that it's a little more of a explanation that will help you guys understand what we have going for the postseason. Okay, how MLB foolishly botched a crucial Mets-Braves series amid Hurricane Helene warnings. Again, this is the article I read. I'll share it with you guys. The New York Mets and Atlanta Braves are in a tight race for a spot in the postseason and are playing each other in one final series. But unfortunately, the biggest opponent for either roster is not the other team, and instead the weather in Atlanta. Tropical storm Helene is passing through the area and will almost definitely cause delays due to severe conditions. As both teams compete for a playoff berth and for one of the wild card spots in the National League, the timing is impossibly bad for both teams because it could lead to potential doubleheader rescheduled for Monday before the postseason begins. So that is really what hurts. That's where the timing sucks, because if you do reschedule a doubleheader for Monday, you know what's going to do? It's going to fuck your pitching. So you play a doubleheader Monday, and then you have this game, and you're supposed to start. This is only a 2 out of 3 series. So now you go into the playoff, which is already a shortened series, with a completely depleted pitching staff. That sucks. Well, I mentioned last night, per a sparrow out of straw, through hardship to the stars. Okay, a few things just kind of randomly that I wanted to get to. One of them, Jason Kelsey. I saw this article. I just felt like I would share. It's actually an old. It's a little bit of an older article, but the headline caught me. It says Eagles legend's wife wants him to stop using NSFW word in front of America. I'm like, oh, what is that? The only part of Philadelphia Eagles legend Jason Kelsey's ESPN Monday Night Football debut last week that went wrong was related to his wardrobe. He didn't have his dress shirt with him. While he ended up buying a new shirt at a mall nearby, it led to a joke that his wife hopes he won't be using again as he helps break down Eagles versus Atlanta Falcons on Monday. Training camp looked a little different this year, Kylie Kelsey wrote Saturday on Instagram. Watching you at the link on Monday is going to be a little different too. Just know that the girls and I are loving cheering you on in this new chapter. Maybe try not to say tits next week. And I'm like, what? Come on. Oh, I mean, what a great word to be able to make your debut with. And so it says, even if Kylie wasn't a huge fan, Jason's brother Travis and his girlfriend Taylor Swift loved it. Me and Taylor were watching it, absolutely dying laughing at that. It was the perfect thing to open everybody up to what they're going to experience the next 18 weeks, Kelsey said on Wednesday's episode of New Heights podcast. Kelsey's appearance on Monday Night Football will be a special one for him as he covers the Eagles, for whom he built a Hall of Fame career while playing for 20. All right. I started Deuces Wild, by the way, with Tits Out last night. And I was inspired by DeMar Hamlin and Von Miller, who did their post-game press conference shirtless. I love Hamlin's tattoo. It's Hamlin Island across his, I think that would be his right tit. So, anyhow, onward and upward here. The hurricane is rapidly intensifying, by the way. And you guys do know we are weather enthusiasts here on the Daily Hustle. So, tracking this thing, Helene rapidly intensified into a hurricane Wednesday, plowed towards Florida landfall as the strongest hurricane to hit in the U.S. in over a year. The storm will grow into a massive, sprawling monster as it continues to intensify. One that won't just slam Florida, but also much of the Southeast. Time is running out for those in the U.S. to prepare. Thousands of Florida residents have already been forced to evacuate, and nearly the entire state is under tropical alerts as the storm threatens to unleash flooding, rainfall, damaging winds, and life-threatening storm surge. Helene is on track to make landfall on Florida's Gulf Coast, likely in the Big Bend region. Late Thursday, it could be a Category 3 major hurricane when it reaches the coast. Strengthened considerably by the extremely warm water of the Gulf of Mexico, rapidly intensifying storms like Helene are becoming more frequent in a warm warning due to fossil fuel pollution. The hurricane will be the fourth to make landfall in the U.S. this year. If you're a godly person, pray, because I don't really need this. Port Richey resident Rick Way told CNN affiliates WFTS on the potential flooding Helene could bring. Neither do any of us. But this storm will be different than Hurricane Idalia and other recent storms to strike the state. Helene is forecast to grow into one of the largest storms in the Gulf of Mexico over the last century. According to the hurricane expert Michael Lowry, this means more storm surge and more widespread impacts, even with the center of the storm well away from the coast. So everyone stay safe out there. It looks like a pretty gnarly storm heading that way. Thrill had the last one, I think it was Idalia, that went right over him. He said it wasn't shit. He had his generator fired up and they were good to go. Okay, another big story here. And this one's fascinating because I read the headline of it. And I'm like, this is fucking weird. But my immediate thought was, hey, like, this kid must be Mormon. So after a 3-0 start, UNLV QB Matthew Sluka says he'll sit the rest of the season over unfulfilled commitments. And so, like I mentioned, I immediately thought to myself, oh, Matthew Sluka, it's time for him to go on his Mormon mission. That's what I thought the commitment was. What other commitment would you have other than a holy one that would draw you away from a college football season in which you're 3-0 and everything is happening? So, like John Davis said, he's not getting his fucking money. I'm like, whoa, what? What is this? So it says a starting quarterback for UNLV will sit out the rest of the season because of what he so-called certain representations that were not upheld. Matthew Sluka, who helped the Rebels to the first 3-0 start in 40 fucking years, announced Tuesday that he plans to redshirt this season by not playing in any more games. Sluka's name, image, and likeness representative Marcus Cromartie told ESPN that Sluka was verbally promised at least $100,000 by an assistant coach before committing to the school this offseason, but has only received $3,000 for a relocation stipend. All right, look, I get it. You didn't get your money. Now, the decision to redshirt is actually kind of a brilliant one. I would also tell you, if you're Sluka, dude, if someone is going to promise you $100,000, you got to get that fucking writing. And they have an assistant coach that promised them $100,000. Like, it's just, the whole thing is shady. It doesn't make any sense to me. All of these, why are we dancing around bullshit anymore, right? These are salary guys. Like, unless you get paid, you're not going to work. That's how this needs to be. This is such a weird gray area right now at this point that how would have he even gone to practice before at least getting the payments? And if you're UNLV and you have all that fucking money in the Las Vegas area with all the casinos and everything, like BetMGM, they should be sponsoring the Rebels, right? They should get behind what's going on in their own backyard the same way they did with the running Rebels back in the day. How are you guys going to let your starting quarterback walk away over $97,000? There's dudes fucking putting $97,000 on a craps table at one time in Las Vegas and not even thinking about it. And we can't get this kid paid? So, look, I don't really think anyone's in the right here. I think the whole thing's fucked up. I think the system's fucked up. I think Sluka's fucking, walking away from his teammates at this point is incredibly fucked up. And I think UNLV is fucked up for, number one, promising something that they can't deliver on, apparently. And number four, I think it's fucked up because there's a shit ton of money in that Las Vegas area. It doesn't make sense to me. Anyhow, all right. Kind of gone way over what I anticipated to. The last question here, though. And by the way, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, the now number one team in the power rankings. And so I went over the power rankings with Biscuit yesterday. I really enjoyed it. We were just randomly sitting there and we start rolling over the power rankings. Because he's like, where are the Bills? Where are the Bills? I said, son, first and foremost, you understand the power rankings don't mean shit, right? Like, it's college football rankings, whatever. College football probably mean a little bit more, but then now this is looking like a playoff system, everything else. But the Bills coming off that a Monday night blowout of the Jacksonville Jaguars 47-10 have now taken over the top spot in the power rankings. They looked fucking terrific. I don't care if it was Dalton Kincaid, if it was Dalton Knox. just spreading the love. James Cook. Cook was terrific running the football. Ended up dropping a late touchdown pass, but we're going to look past that. I mean, the Bills would have 50-something points if that were the case. The Jaguars are in trouble. The Trevor Lawrence had a decent third quarter, but this is a team that looks like they are certainly up against it. And then I made light of it earlier. Damar Hamlin and what he was able to do and come back from literally being fucking dead a couple years later on a Monday night is one of the most inspirational things I've seen in a long time. Look, Hamlin played last year. I don't even know how many active rosters he was on. Very few. If I don't say if any, I think there was one or two. But he didn't play. Like, he was like a practice guy, but kudos for the Bills for keeping him around, letting him build his way back up. And now he's a starting safety. Doing awesome. His first career interception, just a moving moment in Buffalo. If you've never been there to Highmark Stadium, go. You don't even have to be a Bills fan. This is an experience. Went there a couple years ago, took Colton. It was so awesome. This is a fan base that loves their Bills. As passionate as any fan base in football. The Chiefs, and by the way, they're at the Ravens on Sunday night, so they will have a tough task. But this certainly is a team, if they play to their capabilities, I truly believe this is the best team in football. Kansas City Chiefs, number 2, 3-0. They squeaked by the Falcons 22-17. Then it's the Lions at 2-1. They beat the Arizona Cardinals 2013 in Arizona. It's tough to give the Lions a nod over the 3-0 Minnesota Vikings, though. The Vikings beat the bricks off of the Texans 34-7. They beat the Niners the week before. Sam Darnold's looking like the real fucking deal. So look out for the Minnesota Vikings. The Houston Texans, obviously, shit didn't go well for them. They're at number 5 after the loss to the Minnesota Vikings. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-0. The Dolphins are in trouble. They're in a lot of trouble. They beat the Dolphins 24-13. The Packers are 2-1. They beat the Titans 30-14. And then the other 3-0 team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have them here at number 8 on the power rankings. They are at Indianapolis on Sunday, but they beat the Chargers 20-10. Ripping through the rest of it, the Saints, they're 2-1. They lost to the Eagles 15-12. The Saints are going to be competitive. I like the Saints. This is a playoff team. 10 are the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh's got these guys believing. 11 is the Eagles. 12 is Tampa. 13, the Niners at 1-2. Look, you're 1-2. You can't really claim to be any higher than 13, but everyone's tripping on the Niners. Don't trip on the Niners. They're going to be there at the end. The Ravens at 14-2. They beat the Cowboys 28-25. Another tough task this week at home against the Bills. The New York Jets, this might be a little low for a 2-1 team. And with their only loss coming on the road in the first game to the Niners. They beat New England 24-3. Yes, we had the Jets in the under in that one, which was just fucking drilled. They're at home against the Broncos on Sunday, so look for the Jets to be 3-1. The Dallas Cowboys are 1-2. Everyone's tripping on them too. They lost to the Ravens 28-25. Ravens are a good football team. We know that. John Harbaugh's a great coach. They're at the Giants. Look for them to absolutely obliterate the New York Football Giants. Arizona Cardinals, they lost to the Lions at home. Lions, obviously a good team. They're going up against the Commanders next week. This is, what a great story Jaden Daniels is. The play of the year. And they had like this play at number 8 or something. It was fucking stupid. The one where he goes back right here. He's got a blitz coming in his face, chucks it, whole body behind it, perfect throw, gets fucking obliterated. Down to the ground, amazing catch, corner of the end zone. Jaden Daniels is the real deal. Legit. He's got the balls. He's got the athleticism. He's got the know-how. He's got the swag. He's got it all. This guy is going to be a superstar for a long time in the National Football League. And good for the Washington Commanders. They've got out from under a little bit the whole Dan Snyder regime, and it looks like things are turning around there. Rams are 1-2. They beat San Francisco last week, which they fucking never should have. They're at number 19. Then it's the Falcons, the Colts, the Bengals, the Patriots, the Raiders, the Panthers, the Bears, Miami Dolphins, Denver Broncos, New York Football Giants, and the lowly Cleveland Browns, Tennessee Titans, and Jacksonville Jaguars. What's crazy is that the Jags are 0-3, Tennessee's 0-3. There's a lot of parity in the NFL. Literally any team could beat any team on any given week. They can. So, what a great time to be a sports fan. I mean, just in general, right? With college football firing, you got the NFL rocking and rolling, and then you have the MLB playoff push. This is my favorite. Like, so right as you get into October, you could say, oh, late, once we do the World Series, and I like the series. I like the wild card stuff. I like the pennant races. By the way, the Reds parted ways with David Bell. So to look at some of the Reds' next manager odds, the early favorites here. Skip Schumacher, who's a Miami Marlins manager. I know Skip wanted to take next year off. If Cincinnati is where he wants to land, he should probably go grab it. I get it. It would be nice to take that next year off, whatever. But he is good dude, great manager, did a terrific job with Miami last year. This year's been a bit of a fucking debacle. But Skip is a 2-1 favorite to be the next Reds manager. After that is Will Venable, Terry Francona. That would be interesting. Barry Larkin, Pat Kelly, David Ross, Freddie Benavides, Gabe Kapler, Scott Service, Joey Votto, Derek Johnson, Miguel Cairo, Don Mattingly, Christopher Negron, and Aaron Boone. I want to add a guy to the list because I just did his podcast the other day. It got released. If you guys would be, let's say so generous, I'm not generous, but it was a great conversation I had with Brett Boone on the Brett Boone podcast, released this morning on all of the different platforms. Pretty sure it's YouTube, Apple, Spotify, yada, yada, yada. I know there were some clips released on social this morning. Go listen to that. I think Brett Boone would make a fucking fantastic manager. Really, really good manager. Incredibly smart individual, very baseball savvy, nice blend between the old school and the new school. So I'm rooting for him. That's the guy I actually would like to see the Reds at the very least bring him in, have a conversation about potentially being their next skipper. Okay, I'm done. I feel like I talked a lot. I'm going to play pickleball. Everyone have a fantastic day. Back at you tomorrow with another daily hustle. And John Davis, Pete, appreciate you guys firing away in the chat. And happy baseball watching tonight. Should be fun to see what goes down in Los Angeles and then obviously also Atlanta with the Braves and Mets. Looking forward to that stuff. That's it. See